How's everybody doing tonight? All right, I am going to call in Trustee Sanchez, who is unable to attend the meeting tonight, and then we'll go ahead and get started. Hello, sir. Calling in. All right, time is now 7 o'clock. Calling the meeting to order. Please call the roll.
Trustee Williams.
Here.
Trustee Sanchez. Here. Trustee Jones. Trustee Lightford.
Here.
Trustee Peppers.
Here.
Trustee Brandon.
Here.
Mayor Booker.
Here.
Quorum present.
All right. We will call on Trustee Williams to give the invocation, and then we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Father, we thank you for this day. Thank you for your loving kindness, your mercy, and your grace. Thank you for each and every person that's assembled here today, God. We thank you for the covering of this meeting of the village trustees, God, and mayor. Thank you, God, for each and every family that's represented here today. We ask that you allow your Holy Spirit to govern this meeting, govern our minds, govern our bodies, and govern the judgments that we make for this village, God. We pray, God, for the bereaved families of our village. We pray for any honorees that's coming for us tonight, God. And we pray that just your Holy Spirit, once again, continue to guide and direct us as we handle the business of the residents of the village of Maywood. We pray that all hearts and minds will be clear, Lord God, as we continue to try to move Maywood forward. In Jesus' name we thank you. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, I need approval of minutes for the village board meeting of Board of Trustees on Tuesday, December 10th, 2024.
So moved.
Simply correction, minutes will be available in February, so we'll move that to February's meeting. Who's next for oaths, reports, proclamations, announcements, and appointments? Let the record show that Trustee Jones came in at 7:02.
Good evening, Mayor, Board of Trustees. Happy New Year to the residents of the board.
Happy New Year.
Condolences. The Village of Maywood extends our deepest condolences to the families of Mrs. Verdilla Mabry, longtime resident, Mrs. Mildred Life Gray, longtime resident, the family of Mr. Kevin Bell, grandson of Trustee Melvin Lifer Sr., Chris Buchanan Jr., nephew of Public Works Director Greg Buchanan. We ask that you keep all of these families in your thoughts and prayers during their time of bereavement. Upcoming events and programs: Senior Citizens Luncheon on Thursday starting at 11:30 a.m. at the Maywood Masonic Temple, 200 South Fifth Avenue. A youth and family resource fair this Saturday, January the 11th, from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. at the Maywood Masonic Temple. A homeowners series, the next homeowners series, Lunch and Learn, on Thursday, January 14th at 12 p.m. And a Maywood dinner discussion on Tuesday, January 21st at 6 p.m. at the Maywood Masonic Temple. We ask the residents to please mark their calendars for Saturday, February 1st at 12 p.m. for the Pan-African flag raising and community celebration to kick off Black History Month at the Maywood Masonic Temple. To learn more about programs and events, please visit our website at maywood-il.gov or follow us on social media. Also, if you have any issues and concerns that you would like to report, please use the My Civic app, and that can be downloaded on your app store on your cell phone. That's all the announcements.
All right, thank you, Ms. Davis.
Mayor?
Trustee Peppers?
Yeah, I'd like to give condolences to the Mabry family, Mr. Mama Mabry on 18th Ave.
Yeah.
And also the Nelson family in reference to Darnell Nelson, also known as me, class 84, provided to East High School.
All right, thank you. Great. Under 8, we have finance report with our Director Satchel. Does anybody have any questions for items A or B?
I do, yes. On
Trustee
the
Brady?
want list, yeah, I would like to just call out the following items under the warrant list on page 111, number 115448.
11548.
115018. Sorry.
115018.
I also want to call out item.
Is that the ebony and ivory?
Yeah, but if I can read please. I also want to call out number 1150. I think it's 32. Is where it says gate chase.
11532.
And then
I'm sorry.
Is that's for clarity, that's Miss Banks for the 254?
You mean 2-3?
yes, I'm sorry. Yeah,
Wait, 2.
2-3
yes.
on
So,
the same page.
alright, so that is. Alright, NOC. 15023.
As well as on page 112. So this is under community engagement. It's the second item at the top as well.
What's the number?
115442, I believe it is.
115032?
Yes, I'm sorry.
115032. 1150. Are you saying 031 from Ms. Banks?
Yes.
032 is the actuary report.
And then on page 114 or 113, I'm sorry. I think this is for 8. 115048. You see it?
115048.
Starts with 053.
So, Terry Evans?
Yes.
114?
113, I'm sorry.
Okay.
115, I think, are you talking about the 115047 for the reimbursement to Terry Evans? Or are you talking, because 48 is T-Mobile. I mean, well, I think, okay, guys.
Well,
So 115048 for the reimbursement for the turkey giveaway and the senior bingo?
yes.
Okay. 5048 497 76. Okay.
And then I want to call item, one second. Item number 115056, and this is on page
115, say it again.
114.
115114.
115056. And again, that is on page 114.
56. Is this the AAA rental? For the tree
Let's
lift?
S2.
Oh, the heck can look around the tab. Okay.
And then I want to also call
056.
on page 120, 115135.
That's 1151.
On page 123, I want to call.
Wait, trustee.
I'm sorry.
You're saying 115. What was the number?
115135.
Thank you.
115135. is this the car wash? The one with, okay, the Max holiday party and the senior luncheon? Okay.
But then I want to call on page 125, 123.
11512. So,
On page 23,
well,
123, I'm
well,
calling
you're going off the print off. The omnibus agenda, I'm looking at like the code you just gave us, page 14.
Okay, like, do you have it?
That's what I'm asking, what's the number?
Okay, so NIA can help reiterate. 115168.
11516.
On page 124.
Trustee, wait, so 115168.
Correct.
So that's for 205th Avenue HVAC rooftop repairs?
Like, did you get what I just gave you?
Yes.
Okay, so
Well, I need point of
you
view.
can give.
Well, I'm asking trustee, you're the one giving
What-
the report up. You're saying 115168?
Right, so I'm trying to ask questions to Laie about these
But I'm
items.
trying to
so-
take notes as you're.
Oh, okay.
So 115168, and I'm asking for clarity.
Yes.
Are we talking about the rooftop
Yes.
repairs?
Yes.
Okay.
And let me exclude the rooftop repair situation. I want to exclude that actually. But I want to go to 115184.
So 115184.
That's on what page?
This is
124.
for the tree lighting, the tree lighting ceremony? 1151.
No, and I'm specifically talking about the item that's at the bottom of it.
The table rental senior event?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about that.
Okay.
And then on page 126, and this is 115209.
115209.
Yeah.
So we're looking at the pizza for the Explore program.
No, I'm specifically talking about the where it says movies with the mayor.
The $26?
Yes, that's specifically what I'm talking about. Okay, go ahead.
You want me to start with the first item?
Yeah, that's fine.
Because pretty much here in the description, we try to put as much details in there. So pretty much what's listed is what it is. So as you know, we've been having several ribbon cuttings throughout the village for the businesses. And then there's another phase to that, which is beyond the ribbon. And I only say that because that S2 is somewhat related to that. So this is just,
And like, I don't want you. And the reason why I'm calling out some of these items specifically is based on a conversation that I had with the village manager at the end of 2024 in regards to who and really where it stems from is this initiative that was part of the 2024-2025 budget line item, and which was approved by the board, and that was the Tea with the Trustee initiative. And the reason why I am specifically calling out these events is for the purpose of highlighting, a lot of these events that, are, ideas or creations of, an elected official just sitting on this board, similar to the Tea with the Trustee event that was approved and budgeted in the 2024-2025 fiscal year budget. And so when I reached out to the manager about the implementation and execution of the event, for me, it was the response that, caused some alarms on my end. And so first we got the signal to move forward with the event because it was budgeted and it was approved by this entire board. And so the second phase of that conversation, when I spoke to the manager for the second time, he mentioned that he felt that the event was
a political event. He had spoke with the attorney, and that they were not going to allow the event that was budgeted and approved by this board to move forward. And so why I highlight these events is because I was just really trying to get a clear understanding of when are we utilizing this measure to measure whether an event is deemed political or not. And so as I listen to all of these events that are lined up and all of these events that's been happening under the Department of Community Engagement, what it gives me is, and the manager really brought all of this to my attention and to mine, is that, first of all, he's being, political in regards to the event, the Tea with the Trustee event, and unbalanced and biased as well. And so what really grabbed my attention is when he told me that, these are like political events when it was approved by the board. So I was really concerned about that, and concerned that he would be engaged in any type of conversations pertaining to any political activity at all with me. And so when I look at these events, I started to think to myself, well, is he being consistent with this? Is it just this one particular event? But then I gave it some additional thought, like, well, no, this has been the case from the very beginning. Like, there's only like one person in this village, on this village board, can like put together or do events, or they're met with like roadblocks, and just a whole bunch of unnecessary red tape. And it bothered me because I've been involved in Maywood for a very, very long time, and I can't speak for everybody else, but I know what I came here to do, what people elected me to do, that was to work and to put my best foot forward to make myself available to the community, to be highly engaged and highly involved. And so, what came to mind is, I'm like, how is he measuring this? On what grounds is he measuring this thing on? While, to me, to be honest, it appears that we're giving carte blanche for, one particular elected official to utilize the community engagement department as their personal political piggy bank. And I am totally bothered by it, that in his words, well, trustee, I spoke with the attorney, and we're not going to allow this to happen. We're not doing it. And then I hung up the phone, as he continued to talk. But I was most certainly bothered by this whole idea that, we've ran on different parties or different political organizations or what have you. But when we're up here, our goal is to figure out how we can engage with the community collectively and individually. And we all have our own ideas of how we want to do that. And to be met with that type of roadblocks that has continued to happen. This is not the first case, but I just simply had enough of it. And that's why I highlighted these events, because all of these events, no one has come to this board to ask, what would we like to see done? Or what do you have in mind? No, that hasn't happened, because there's this idea or this notion that this community is like being ran by one person, and that is not how things work. And so again, I believe to Manager Torres that what you communicated to me on the phone was not balanced, and it was biased, and I do believe it to be political as well, because the initiative was approved by this board. And when we understand our jobs and our roles, so what your job is to execute the priorities of this board. And those priorities are set within the budget and approved as well. And so anytime you tell me, your boss, that you're not going to do something that has been approved by this entire board, not just me, because I can't do it alone, but by this entire board, I find it to be unacceptable. I find it to be highly unacceptable. And so, for me, and this is my, question for Jerusik, like, what can be done about this behavior? Because it's not fair, and very much so was political,
Because he mentioned it. He mentioned that, trustee is political. How is it political when it was approved by this board, this entire board, and it was budgeted for? So again, I find those comments to be, and that's why I call out all these events, because it seems like, well, the community development department is doing it, and one person is channeling all of these ideas through this community engagement department under the whole idea of community engagement. But a lot of these ideas are one person ideas. The board is not involved, not engaged in it. And so that's what really ticked me off in regards to this whole ordeal, because of the tone and the language that was used in the midst of that conversation. And so that's why I brought up all of these ideas to say, how we measure these things. What measuring tools are we utilizing to determine whether or not something is political or not when the board has approved it and budgeted? And so, and this is for Frank. And I would like to answer to those questions, because I was very disturbed by your comments and by the conversation of you just saying, like, I work for you. No, you work for me in this community. That's how it works. And so when we understand the job and understand how the organization is truly structured and this current form of government in which we're operating under, like there's this whole notion, I don't know if folks are delusional or of how we're operating. This is not those other communities. We're different. We are totally different. And so it most certainly disturbed me. The conversation did. And that's why I brought it up. And highlighted all of these events that are under community engagement, and they're happening every week. During a political season. So that means, our campaign is going to taxpayers' dollars. That's what it was giving me. And so I would have never been inspired by you to go through this if you would have brought up this whole idea of politics, which was unacceptable. And so again, sir, I ask you, what measuring tools are you using to identify whether or not an event is political after it was approved and voted on by this entire board? So that's for you, Frank.
Trustee, can I ask a question for clarity? I mean, we'll get to.
No, and Frank can ask my question
You just
first.
said a whole lot, right?
I know, but the question was for Frank.
I understand the question.
And this is what's created confusion.
Trustee, you just gave a very lengthy.
But it was
thought
specifically
process, right?
for Frank.
It was specifically
And this is
directed
what's
to a
creating
lot of
confusion.
things, trustee. So, clarity, right? I want clarity and understand. You just named the budget line items for Christmas parties, tree lighting ceremonies, Thanksgiving, MATS programs, homeowner series, and I'm just trying to understand. These are events that we put in the budget and have every year. The homeowner program and the Beyond the Ribbon are the only two new things, but we voted on the Beyond the Ribbon as an initiative.
Mm-hmm.
So
just like we did with
so it launched based on the Beyond the Ribbon being a program to focus on businesses and sustainability. The tea with the trustees, as I said before.
As you said.
Trustee.
I'm listening.
You gave a whole lengthy talk.
For the manager, though.
So no, you gave it to the crowd, because if it was for the manager, it would have been you and the manager.
No, we had the conversation.
So trustee, if you would allow me a moment.
Go ahead.
Okay.
I'm listening.
So I need a moment. What I'm looking for the clarity and understanding is, when you say tea with the trustees, what I look at that as is you want to have a moment where trustees have a community conversation with the residents that we're all together in. When you said tea with the trustees last year, it was very clear when I said the only community that has a tea with the trustees is Dalton, Illinois, and their tea with the trustees is not paid for by the village of Maywood. By the village of Dalton. Their events were not held on municipal government facilities. So they were privately paid for politically. They were not paid for by a municipality. They were not held on municipal grounds. There's no other Tea with Trustees event in this state aside from Tea with the Trustees in Dalton, Illinois, that is politically and privately paid for and held on grounds that are not municipal grounds. So when we put in the budget the Tea with the Trustee conversation, it was really to say we would work collaboratively to have joint events where we're speaking to the residents. To be real honest, my thing is you're bringing up Tea with Trustees 80 days before an election, so it kind of does come across as you're saying you want to speak on behalf of the village of Maywood, and with all respect and understanding that within the previous administration, you did take a more step in regards to being the voice and spokesperson of the village. I've simply said that to you on multiple occasions. I don't need you to speak on my behalf or hold events on my behalf. You also have to think back into 2022 when we eliminated and voted as a board to take out the individual spending stipends of trustees. So if there is a Tea with the Trustee type event where you're looking for having a joint community event, I don't think all the trustees nor myself were notified of that event taking place or what that event even was. There's nothing that you can look on or speak to on this list that you didn't get an invitation to, that was not open to the public, that was not publicized to the public. There is no private events taking place. So when you speak to a pre-approved budget of saying we would have joint events of making sure that the board was available to have to speak, great, but I would find it very problematic for you to have an event speaking on behalf of the village of Maywood when our conversations, tones, and narrative of things are completely different. So for you to say you want to have a private event on the village of Maywood and speak as the village of Maywood, that's not what Tea with Trustees that's in Dalton, Illinois is. That's their political private sounding board that they pay for out of political funds. Just wanted clarity. Village Manager Torres.
Okay. Well, trustee, I see that you want to tell half stories on the conversation that we did have.
Tell the whole
I
story.
did send you an email saying that I had some concerns about that, about you and anybody else are looking to change different positions for elected positions, and it might be interpreted as a political event. I did say that. The reason why you hung up on me is because you threatened me, and I called you out on it, and you hung up. And I can verify that because I did call the attorney right after that. I did bring up that it was and I talked with Attorney Drusik as more of a policy issue because we would violate Open Meetings Act by having more than one trustee at the Tea with the Trustees, and I will have Attorney Drusik expand on that further. So tell the whole story. Tell the whole story.
Attorney Drusik.
Okay, first of all,
You geared it towards Attorney Drusik as well. So
wait, I want to respond to the manager. First of all, sir, you were never threatened over the phone. First of all, I'm too intelligent for that. I told you that I hung up because you continued to talk while I was on my break
You're
at
lying,
work.
trustee.
I'm sorry.
You said you're going to get me and all my buddies. That's what you said to me, and then hung up when I said, "Are you threatening me?"
Wait, what I say again?
You're going to get me and all my buddies. I'm going to
I'm
take
gonna
care
get
of
you.
you and all your buddies.
I'm going to get you and all your buddies.
That's what you said, trustee.
That
Yes, you
doesn't
did.
sound like me, so now that's what we're doing.
That's what you said.
Okay, so
Keep
that's...
lying.
So, I'm sorry?
Lying.
at
Keep
some
lying.
point in time, can we get back to the board meeting?
Yeah.
I understand that there's a lot of
Wrong
conversation going
language.
on, but
Wrong neighborhood, wrong
this
language.
is not the place or the time for this. We do have things that we need to get.
But go ahead, attorney.
But Attorney
Speak.
Drusik.
Get you and all your buddies. Oh my God.
Whatever the day was that this conversation had between trustee Brandon and manager Torres, I was contacted by the manager after he had gotten off the phone. Manager did indicate that the phone call did not end well, and he felt somewhat threatened by trustee Brandon, the way the conversation ended. My concerns over the issue that, as the team of the trustees has explained to me by the manager, my concerns were Open Meetings Act compliance, because it sounded like it wasn't just going to be team with a particular trustee, that, you know, it was going to be multiple elected board members coming, and the question is, do we have an Open Meetings Act, do we have a majority of a quorum? If we're going to have tea with the trustees, then maybe we should have a special board meeting if they're going to be getting together with the public, talking the village business. Straight up Open Meetings Act concern. Second thing, use of public funds. You know, tea with the trustees apparently was put into the this year's budget last May. It's now coming up right now. You can't use political funds for, public funds for political purposes. So that was a concern raised. And so the issue was, how do you make sure that these events are not political in nature, because you're in the high season of politicking right now. So you have a joint event, as the mayor indicated. We had a budget. You know, there's nothing in our budget. There was no policy or protocol, and that budget item was approved that identified the priority use of the funds. So I pointed that out. Who gets to go first? Who gets to have these joint events? We should have, and I told the manager, this should come back to the board for some clarification. We're gonna have tea with the trustees. You ought to have a protocol in place for using the money that the entire board was entitled to spend. You know, who gets to go first? You know, can everybody participate in, the first one, the second one, the third one? How many can you have? What are the costs? You ought to look at that. That's really it. We had that conversation, and, as far as I'm concerned, the manager and I agreed it should come back to the board, since you did budget the money, to figure out how to spend the money in a way that's fair and equitable to the set of members on the board.
So, thank you, Attorney Drusick, but I said, this isn't really a topic on the agenda for tonight. It would be great for the trustees to have different conversations, but ultimately, this is not a discussion to open for discussion tonight to talk about.
So I just want to add something to what the attorney said. Thank you, appreciate it. And so we just talked about what other folks are doing in other communities, and how folks are not utilizing government funds. But what we're doing here is duplicating services, because it's the same senior breakfast, lunch program that the village is doing. They're doing over at the Park District, and it's basically putting two government entities against each other, and that's exactly what it's doing. And so we could try to play this whole. And what I did tell the manager, I don't know about, I'm gonna get you and your buddies, because I don't even know who your buddies are. So that was just the craziest lie I've ever heard. But in regards to just the duplicated programs and services, we're doing the same exact thing, and now we're talking about every week, but we spend village resources, and this was the other concern that I brought to the manager's attention, that we spent taxpayers' dollars on, is this huge window sign of view on 13th and Roosevelt Road. Taxpayers' money being spent right before the election time. So this whole idea of we're marketing the village of Maywood. Then we got the trustee's name at the very bottom of it, but we're gonna pay for it. This marketing material to go in the business with your face on it. It's definitely giving Dalton. So I'm happy you brought that up. That huge banner on 13th and Roosevelt Road with your face on it that the taxpayers paid for. If we're gonna call it marketing, I believe it came out of the Community Development Department. It using taxpayers' money, as you just stated, doing the political time. Now that's political. That is political.
That was 3 months ago.
Right in your campaign kickoff. There we go. All right. But we can continue.
So next on the agenda is thank you, Director Satchel. Next on the agenda is Village President's report. Just discussing that we are going into budget fiscal year 24-25. So I'm going to definitely direct that over to the Finance Committee to start discussing, so that we can make sure that we meet the deadline of getting the budget approved in May of 2025. Other than that, the only other item is the liquor license, and the Liquor Commission just held a meeting where the Liquor Commission did approve to move forward with the license. With that said, there's nothing else. Public comment. So for public comment, you have 3 minutes. You can provide your name. You do not have to provide your address. Please call the first person.
Walter Logan.
Good afternoon. I've been seeing nothing but good things happening in Maywood. I'm not going to get into detail.
Mr. Logan, if you can come grab the mic. Sure.
No, here, sir. It's right here in the front.
It's the mic right there. If you press the button, it should turn green.
I think it's.
Oh, it's on. Yes.
God bless one another. Hopefully I'm in the right place. I've been seeing a lot of good things going on in Maywood. I have nothing best to say. I'm usually on the streets all night, most of the time, from First Avenue to 17th Street. And I see a lot of good things going on. I thank God for Brother Frank over there, some other things that others played a part in. I'm not going to get into detail. I was out there this morning. I think I was the first person out there at 4 o'clock this morning putting down something. Because I get my information early. And I saw them salt trucks out there. I talked to him. I told Chris that you have to go give him a raise because he's out there doing such a wonderful job. But I've been seeing a lot of good stuff going on out here in Maywood. I'm not going to get into detail. It's good to be here tonight. I've just been too busy lately. I'm not going to talk too long, but most folks say I do. Thank you all for listening. God bless.
Thank you. God bless.
Ms. Van Dyver?
Hello, my name is Vandenberg.
Good afternoon. Hello. Good
Hi,
evening.
everybody. All right, I'm going to be real brief. I know we got a lot of stuff to cover tonight, but real brief. So I just have one brief question for the attorney. It's in reference to the compensation increase that recently was voted into effect. My question is, in preparation for like the 2027 election, I know that you clarified that if they wanted initially the pay increases to be able to go into effect for the next people voted in, to go up, if the board, the future board decides that they want to make amendments to that for the 2027 year, to make those salaries more consistent with what they're actually supposed to be, could they do that for the 2027 election? Meaning, right now, the salaries are not appropriate, but if they want to make adjustments, I just want to know, can that be an item for 2027? The other questions are really quick. Back in August, I had submitted a FOIA to get the fiscal year 2023 audit. I see in the agenda items a couple of months ago in November, the village cut a check for it, so I want to know the status of that audit. Like, is it coming out soon so that the public can see it? The third question I have is in reference to the issue tonight about changing our style of government, the referendum for April. I want to know, is it going to be a binding or a non-binding referendum? My last two quick questions is this. If it is a binding referendum and it passes and our government is changed, I want to know what's going to be the status of the village manager. Is he just going to be deemed to be the village administrator? Are we going to hire somebody else as an administrator and then remove the village manager? So I want to know the status of that position. And then the last question is about compensation. If we've just now raised the mayor's salary to $75,000, and in the meeting from September 23rd, 2024, the town hall meeting about those increases, it was said that if you had a part-time mayor, the salary of $75,000 is justified, but full-time mayors, like the one in Broadview and Bellwood, their salaries are ranging from $100,000 to $150,000. I want to know, if we go to a full-time mayor status, how much are we going to have to pay the mayor, salary-wise? Because we would have just increased it to 75. So I want to know what's the new salary. Okay, I'm sorry, that's it.
Thank you.
Ms. Deckham?
Is everyone here today? I'm here on behalf of Miracle Bible Cathedral Ministries, representing our pastor, DeAndre Patterson, senior pastor, and our church family and congregation, and majority of our congregation is Village of Maywood residents. To whom it may concern, it is with utmost admiration and gratitude we commend Trustee Ramon Williams for his extraordinary service and unwavering dedication to the Village of Maywood. His recent efforts in collaboration with Mr. Greg Buchanan, Director of Public Works, have brought a resolution to an issue that had birthed Miracle Revival Cathedral Ministry, congregation, and community for over 15 years. Through his tireless commitment, Trustee Williams has proven himself to be an exemplary servant and leader whose work embodies the essence of community service. Trustee Williams had demonstrated remarkable perseverance and compassion even during a time of a personal challenge and adversity. Despite navigating a significant family event, he answered the call to action without hesitation. And on the very same day we reached out, he prioritized our needs, ensuring the resources of the Public Works Department were efficiently and effectively deployed. His dedication allowed for us to continue hosting a critical event, the Neighborhood Assistance Corporation of America NACA program, which serves as an essential resource for the community. His present actions during this pivotal moment highlighted his profound commitment to the service. Not only did Trustee Williams resolve the immediate challenges we face, but also exemplified the qualities of a true leader: empathy, reliability, and a profound sense of his duty. His efforts ensure that our space, which functions as both a house of worship and a hub for nonprofit initiatives, remain operational. Our organization is more than a place of faith. It is a beacon of hope, service, and support for the Maywood community. Through his swift and decisive actions, Trustee Williams discriminated an extraordinary ability to balance competing demands, marshal resources, and deliver solutions that benefit the greater good. He went above and beyond, making a significant impact not only to our event, our church, but our community at large. His dedication, even in the face of personal trials, was both inspiring and humbling. We firmly believe that Trustee Williams' role as a trustee in Maywood is invaluable, and he exemplifies the best of public service, standing as a model of what true leadership should look like: selfless, proactive, and deeply committed to the well-being of his community. His contributions reflect an unparalleled commitment to fostering trust, growth, and unity within Maywood. So on behalf of Miracle Revival Cathedral Ministries, we extend our heartfelt thanks to Ramon Williams, Mr. Greg Buchanan, Director of Public Works, the Mayor, Village Manager. Their actions not only resolved a long-standing issue, but reaffirmed the importance of public and community collaboration. May their efforts serve as an enduring example of how dedicated public service can inspire meaningful change and leave indelible marks on the lives of others.
Amen.
Can I walk over or am I over?
Are you want to take up this? You can pass it down.
I put more in here for you as well, Mayor. I didn't know if I was
Okay, we could just pass it. But thank you so much.
Ms. Harriet, no comment at this time. Okay. Don Williams.
So I'm Williams, Commissioner and Board President for the Maywood Park District. I am requesting a timely response from the village manager in writing of the questions that I am about to ask tonight. I am also submitting for a request for the information if I do not receive a timely response. The Village of Maywood needs to be transparent and the public deserves to know. At the December 17th board meeting, the mayor and board of trustees gave a directive to the Village of Maywood manager and attorney to conduct an inquiry of a management agreement with the Maywood Park District. The mayor said that the members of the Maywood Park District Board reached out to the Village of Maywood Board for this request. I would like to know who from the Village of Maywood Board and the Maywood Park District Board, because Commissioner John Rice, myself, and Director Cheney are not aware of this contact. August 2024, Trustee Peppers asked the village manager and attorney to conduct a forensic audit of Village of Maywood employees, board members, staff, emails, text messages, and any form of communication regarding petitions, paperwork, documents on how the 3 non-binding referendum questions appeared on the Village of Maywood board agenda for approval. Trustee Peppers also stated that one of his students was underage and was told by a Village of Maywood employee to get petitions signed regarding the referendum questions. What is the status of that investigation of the Village of Maywood employees that were involved? There was also an ethics violation that occurred by the Board of Trustees regarding this process. What is the results of that investigation? The Village of Maywood Retired Board has misled residents stating that a 0% tax rate increase in tax levy has not been voted on in the past 4 years under the Booker administration. However, what the entire board is not informing residents that the Village of Maywood still collects a loss in collection on taxes at 12%, because the entire Village of Maywood does not receive the tax allotment due to vacant properties, taxes on properties, and other taxes not being collected. Village of Maywood Board of Trustees, are you aware that the village manager, mayor, and the entire community engagement department attended the Illinois Association of Park District Conference January 2024? What line item funding was used to pay for those individuals to attend? What was the purpose? And where are the reports from those individuals? Do those same individuals in that entire department plan to attend this year's conference in January 2025? That conference is for park and recreation industries only. Right now, the Village of Maywood is conducting duplication of services and providing recreational activities. Because the saying is, since the park district isn't doing it, somebody has to do it. This was the reasoning of why the binding referendum was placed on the ballot in 2007 by Mayor Henderson Yarborough.
Thank you.
I yield my time to,
Ms. Perkins?
Former mayor of the village of Maywood. Dear citizens of Maywood, we do not need Mayor Booker telling us we need a mayor form of government for the village of Maywood. He needs to go out and get himself a job instead of depending on Maywood to take care of his needs. We former mayors had our own jobs prior to working for the village of Maywood. Vote no on anything Mayor Booker put on the board, on the ballot. Thank you, and God bless you.
John Rice?
I yield my time to.
Village of Maywood Board of Trustees, you are breaking the law. You are only to receive $200,000 for recreation per the 2007 referendum that Maywood residents, including myself, voted on. One consolidated park district to have the parks and facilities transferred to the park district. Village of Maywood Board of Trustees, are you aware that there is a such agency within your group named the Village of Maywood Park District? And it has received in excess of $2 million in grant funding. No such agency exists because the Village of Maywood is supposed to be out of the recreation business. Who wrote the grants? Who authorized it? Who is the administrator of the grants? And this has taken away much needed funding for the Maywood Park District. In 2013, the Maywood Library shut down due to issues with their finances. The Village of Maywood and the entire community rallied together to assist the library and also provided funding to them as well until they were able to get on their feet. The Maywood Park District has had financial issues, and we have become a target of unnecessary bullying, illegal shutdowns of our facility to further cripple us, and we are continuing to be bullied by the mayor and this board, the mayor was heavily involved in our Maywood Park District operations from 2019 to 2021 as a Village of Maywood trustee, and from 2021 to 2023 as the mayor. He was at our building daily for 4 years, but now he is spearheading the dissolvement of our park district, and the Village of Maywood entire board is allowing this to happen. Other governing bodies, the library, School District 89, 209, take notes and pay attention. You'll be next. This is what good village government looks like. We're supposed to be one community working together. Mayor Pirelli, Joe Freelon, Donald Williams, Ralph Connor, Henderson Yarborough, Edwina Perkins, the clerks, all of their board of trustees would not have done what this Mayor Booker and his administration is doing. Anyone that wants to have copies of this documentation, you can email me, text message me, or call me. I'll give you everything that I have. Thank you.
Warren Beckton.
Good evening, Mayor, Board. Happy New Year to all.
Happy New Year.
I come halfway in peace today, Mr. Mayor. Try to come fully in peace today. Make it rough. One of my first concerns is the Thanksgiving, the turkey giveaway, and Christmas time. Across the street, I only seen two when I came, the mayor and Brother Williams here, as far as there. If we're gonna be a community for the people, we can agree to disagree all we want. I'm not like, you have to really be for the people. Everybody try to run their own individual opening here, supporting that. If you're for the people, I don't agree with none of all y'all say. And nobody agree with everybody say 100%. But we really have to be for the people. People say they're for the people, but then they're gonna have their own agenda. I really, Brother Duncan and Buchanan, they've been doing a great job. I love the way and direction that Maywood is headed. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people, once again, you can't please everybody. I just got back, started coming to village meetings. It's been over 20 years. The reason why I stopped coming, because I ain't like how the village was being ran. I like the direction that the village is going, and I'm sorry I come back doing I'm sorry I came back doing this election time. You know what I mean? I chose to come back at the wrong time, but I seen it going in the right direction, and I'm really proud of the direction that the village is going. And if I can be more involved, I'm gonna be involved. You know what I mean? I never had a job at Public Works or anything like that, but when the citizens call, they all have my number on the block. They call me, hey, it's a dead cat in the street. There's nobody coming, it's the weekend. I get up and go get out and get it. That's what we have to do as a community. I don't get paid for that, but I really believe and love in Maywood. And people say they love in Maywood, but they don't exemplify it, they show it, you know what I mean? So we have to do more than just talk, we have to get out here and really do it. And I hope together in 2025, whoever wins the election, you know what I'm saying? We all can come together, you know what I mean? And when people go outdoors, as far as on the board, you don't see them most of the time. Once they gone, they gone. If you really love Maywood, I'll be here when I'm getting reelected. I'll be here. But most people, they find their own way. You really never had Maywood in your heart. You really never had Maywood in your heart if you're going after that. Thank you and have a good evening.
Thank you. Okay. Mr. Logan, thank you very much. Really appreciate it. And big shout out to Director Buchanan and the Public Works team for the salt spraying that they did and for the water breakages that have been taking place and just overall doing a bang up job from the fall to the winter to the spring to the summer. So just a shout out to them. For Ms. Vandier, so the compensation increase, your question is that was voted on to take effect in 2025. You're saying in 2025, can it be voted to recall it so that it doesn't become activated or changed or amended in some way in 2027?
Well, no. Like with this vote, it had to be done 180 days before the next election, so it's too late. So I'm saying for 2027, if the new board that comes in decides they want to correct that, can they amend it and then put that forward for the next crop of board members? Mr. Drews, if you understand what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I get it now.
Think of it this way, when these types of compensation adjustments get approved by a board, as we talked about before, they can't effective for the current sitting trustees, they can only be prospective. So for a future mayor, a future trustee, you know, if the 2026 board wants to make adjustments to compensation, whoever is on that 2026 board, they can only make adjustments to their compensation prospectively, only for when they go off the board for the next person that takes their seat. And, you know, the one limitation beyond that is the approval ordinance that changes the compensation has to be approved 6 months, 6 months prior to, that turnover date. So those are the windows, you'd have to do kind of a mind map to figure out how it would all work going forward. But yeah, those are the two basic rules. You got to approve it 6 months in advance, and you can't give yourself a raise, you can only approve a raise for those folks who sit in your seat next.
All right, and then the other question in regards to the change of form of government, binding, non-binding. I mean, to ask the question of the change of form of government, I would assume would be binding.
Yes.
As in general. The question in regards to village administrator, I think that if we did do the change of form of government, that would be up to the board to approve what the new structure of layout of officers or staff would be. So a village administrator would be up in whatever the new structure would be voted on as, and that compensation would be voted on as such. When the question of the change of form of government has nothing to do with the change of form of this change of salary that was just voted on already. So the change of compensation for the mayor is already set. So regardless if the change of form of government takes place or not, that salary is already done. So there would be no change in the salary put forth. That would still be potentially in the budget space for a village administrator that would have the same salary or similar to what village manager Torres has right now. Miss Beckham, that was lovely. Thank you.
Thank you.
And congratulations again. Director Buchanan is amazing. So I appreciate him very much. And Trustee Ramon, congratulations on your acknowledgement. So Don Williams. I can answer some of the questions. I'm not sure about the other things, but what I will say is, you said when was the agreement to have the meeting? So when we were at the Maywood Park District Board meeting, and was it Channel 5 News and CBS News were there, as we adjourned the board meeting and walked out into the hallway, they asked me for a comment in regards to what had just taken place at the board meeting. And as I was speaking to them, Executive Director Cheney walked up. We had a discussion that was on live camera. As they recorded it, we both agreed to have a discussion and conversation on live camera, on live television. It was published that night for everyone in the village of Maywood to see. So to say that Executive Director Cheney was unaware of it, we literally agreed to the meeting on live camera that was published at 10 o'clock news. Moving forward after that, we had agreed on a date and time that initially it was myself, Village Manager Torres, and Trustee Williams, and Executive Director Cheney at that time believed that you would come to the meeting as well, and Commissioner Eden. You declined to come to that meeting, and the meeting had the attendance of Commissioner Eden and Commissioner Bass. Executive Director Cheney, after he left you, because you had him in his office, did come to the meeting. So we met that night. We met for about 2 hours, and the takeaway from that meeting, after it was multiple different conversations throughout that time, was that it would be like Executive Director Cheney would like to see what a management agreement would look like to be able to present to the board as a whole. Understanding right now, you all have a 2-to-2 split. Commissioner Bass and Commissioner Eden were interested to see what that management agreement would look like as well. Understanding that you chose and opted not to come to a meeting that you were fully aware of. So to say that no one was aware of the meeting that they physically were at for nearly 2 hours is untrue. When you say all of the staff members of the community engagement department went to the conference, that's not accurate. There were 2 members of community engagement that went to the conference. Within the community engagement that went to the conference, we own 7 parks. We own 2 facilities. There was the grant that we had to run the after-school programming and the summer programming. We, at that point in time, had severed ties and ended the management agreement of the Maywood Park District. So for community engagement staff members working with Director Banks, yes, there are two of those members did go to the conference. When you say Village Manager Torres, not only at the time was not the village manager, he didn't attend the conference. So to say that is an inaccuracy. If maybe his registration had been done at that time, it may have been done through Summit, because at that time he would have been still working with, in partnership, the Summit Park District. But he did not attend the conference on behalf of the village of Maywood at the time, nor was he the village manager at the time of the conference. He did not attend the conference on behalf of the village of Maywood at all. He wasn't even present at the conference. The 2007 referendum that you speak of is 18 years old. The statute states that you have 2 years to complete that transfer. So I'm not arguing with you. It is an 18-year-old question that was asked. The question that was literally just asked to residents last year about the consolidation got 92% to consolidate. When you say there's $2 million applied for as the Village of Maywood Park District, I would ask that you check your records. The Village of Maywood Park District funds were applied for by, at that time, Executive Director Hall. The $2 million that you're referring to is the money that you would have gotten your roof done with and the other funds. At the time that I did have a relationship with Ms. Hall, she did talk about the Village of Maywood where she had to work with the state to get that money fixed. But here's the reality. Because you have misappropriated funds so much, you're on the do not pay list for the state of Illinois. So the funds are still stuck in the state of Illinois. The Village of Maywood never applied for any money as the Village of Maywood Park District, nor the village has applied for state funding for park and recreation at all. So, ma'am, there's nothing with my name on it. There's nothing with the village. There's nothing with the village manager's name on it. So to say that the $2 million, you do have $2 million with the state merely. You just have to finish your 5 years of audits that you have not completed. To say that you are referencing something that happened with the library, I don't know what to say about that. But to speak to the time that I volunteered and was not paid 5 cents from the Maywood Park District while I did work with them and try to help, I did. And I did work with them. And I did work with you, right? But at the end of the day, to find out that a governing body has not filed an audit for 5 years, is not on the do not pay list, and has $156 in the bank account and can go 4 months without paying employees, that's a problem. So at a certain point in time, you have to step away. The problem that we also have is when you talk about there's some issues, the issue that we have to start with is you yourself have personally worked as a cashier, being the bartender at the Maywood Park District, yet you're trying to approve audits that shows that there was no cash revenue for the year, even though you yourself, as a bartender, is the one that took in cash. So for me, I don't care to get into a big argument about it. I just wanted to provide a point of clarity. That ends public comment. All right, moving on from public comment. Village Manager's Report. Does anybody have any questions for any items on the Village Manager's Report?
I have a question.
Trustee Jones.
Village Manager Torres, or how does the OSLOT grant work? And did we apply for it? And the reason why I'm asking is I noticed that the Christian Administration awarded $55.2 million in grants for local park projects to park districts and municipalities. At one point, we got a significant amount of money for our pool that we ultimately had to give back to the scope of work. So I've been kind of eyeballing. The idea was that we could reapply and get those resources. So I wanted to ask you if you knew the status of that, and then if we applied and didn't get it, what was like the feedback?
So
Village Manager Torres.
So I came in as the assistant village manager at the time when I talked to the village manager, Jim, about that OSLOT grant that was given back, due to the fact that we did a study with an engineer, provided it to the board, that they could not fix the pool. We do have an opportunity to apply again. I'd be more than willing to apply again for OSLOT. But as far as I know, that as far as the village manager, prior village manager told me, is that we did end up giving the money back because it was dedicated for repurposing the pool.
So, Trustee, just to also give clarity, the OSLOT grant wasn't applied for this year because we're still doing the feasibility of the $2.5 million that we got for the full 18-acre project. So within the full 18-acre project and the $2.5 million that we received as a grant from the Illinois Legislative Black Caucus is a part of that redevelopment. So once that redevelopment and that actual prep work of what the project will be eventually, then we would apply for the OSLOT grant. We can't apply for the OSLOT grant without getting the actual feasibility of what that 18-acre project will look like long term. The reason that we returned the initial OSLOC grant funding is because had we taken that OSLOC grant funding, we would not be able to apply for whatever the final project would be. So there was no application for the OSLOC this year because the feasibility of the sports complex feasibility that we approved is still being done to include water and the pool. And then also the entire 18 acres as a feasibility is being done with the 2.5 million that the Community Development Department is working with DCL on. So once that project is done, then we would apply for OSLOC funding.
Okay, I have a follow-up comment. So my understanding of this project that you're referring to, this grant that we got, so the grant money was used for us to develop a plan, if I'm not mistaken. I'm sorry?
I was just saying, it's not done.
What's that?
The actual feasibility for
Right,
18
so,
acres.
right, okay, so the 2.5 million is used for a feasibility study, not for the project. So in the meantime, it sounds like we can't apply for grant money because we received a grant for something that we're ultimately gonna have to take out a ginormous bond for.
That's not what I'm saying.
Or, I'm sorry?
That's not what I'm saying.
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that the reason why, so when we got that OSLOC grant for the pools, like, I forgot, $400,000 or $300,000 some dollars. The reason was because at the time we said, oh, the pool costs more than the grant that we got, right? Like the scope of work or whatever we applied for, we're saying that the ability to fix it is greater than what we applied for, so we sent it back. I voted no not to send it back because I would have wanted to use village resources or other resources to complement that in order to move forward with the pool. Part of it is I'm not, just me individually, I'm not bought in on this, I'm cool with doing the feasibility study. I think this is going to be hundreds of millions of dollars, this build out. I'm not super bought in on it. I don't know what the bond implications are. We're doing tip issues, etc. The reason why I was saying that is though, I guess I was looking because I thought someone on the board mentioned that, oh, we can reapply. But it sounds like we can't reapply until we're done with this feasibility study. And it's only if we move forward with a bond, which I don't know what the estimates are. I'm sure it's hundreds of millions of dollars for this campus. Until then, it sounds like we can't move or we can't apply for certain grants. My concern is like we either are 100% committed to this bond project that I still don't feel 100% comfortable in it because we're building on a lagoon and some other considerations. I guess I was asking with the village manager if that's the plan. It just sounds like, just so the community knows, that we're not going to be getting state funding or we're not going to be applying until we finish with the feasibility study, whenever that is, and then the community or somebody, the board, has to approve a bond for hundreds of millions of dollars that we hope that we get approved for. I think so. I don't know how much. It's over. I mean, if the feasibility study is 2.5 and the project is, I mean, you're building like a recreational center, a pool, etc. So my concern is ultimately village manager or the board is that we're committed to this and we're going to move forward with this. And it seems like we don't have the ability to apply to certain grants until we essentially are committed to this. So I think that's a conversation that we need to have with the bond implications. Because I'm under the impression too with that we have to wait until we get our audits up to date. Speaking of audits, we have to get our audits up to date in order to even know if we'll even be bond eligible. So I guess ultimately I'm painting this picture to see how long are we going to be kicking this pool thing down the road. When would be the earliest we would even know about the bond? It sounds like you think my numbers are incorrect, that it's not hundreds of millions of dollars. Maybe it's not 100 million or 80, I don't know. But what that is, our budget is like $30-some million a year. So we're talking about raising a bond that's 2.5 of our budget. I guess I'm just concerned about the strategy overall when directly with the pool, because that was the money that we gave back. So money, if the idea was like we're going to give back this money we're going to get back the grant in order to essentially raise a bond. I don't get it.
Okay. So, trustee, that everything you just said is inaccurate. I think the one part that we have to think about is...
Which part was inaccurate?
I'm about to explain it step by step. The one part that I said was, it makes, like we're doing a feasibility study of what to actually do. So we can't apply for OSLOT grant as a project if we have not completed the feasibility study of what the project would actually be. We can't apply for OSLOT while we're doing a feasibility study. It's not to say that we could apply for OSLOT for another project, but realistically, if we apply for OSLOT today, likely we won't get another OSLOT within the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, right? So when I say we voted to return the $300,000 because the pool that's 60 years old, that's outdoor, that's not even heated with no lighting, costs $1.23 million to fix. And that's not adding or upgrading it to new standards of 2024. That's just fixing it. So that's why we voted to return the $300,000 to be eligible to apply for whatever the final project will be for OSLOT funding. So when we talk about you're not sold on the feasibility, or you're not sold on the project of bonds, trustee, nobody ever said that the project would eventually take out bonds for specific things. The reason that we're doing the feasibility specifically for the pool or sports complex or whatever it may be with Sports Facilities America is because they would come back with 3 or 4 different options of how we could do a project and get it built out. Well, here's the reality. There's other ways that they do it across the country that don't require the village to take out any bonds whatsoever. But we have to get through that feasibility that we literally just voted to start that started December. So there'll be community meetings coming up on that project April, May, but right now they're doing the feasibility, they are looking at it. When you talk about the $2.5 million as a feasibility, well, to your point, as you just said, the 18 acres of land that the village of Maywood owns sits on a lagoon. This facility right here sits on a lagoon that's sinking, right? So to pay for the study of what needs to be done, we got the grant of the $2.5 million. And that will help us assess what are our options, where can you build, what can you build, and where can we get funding to do it. To say that we specifically have to take out a bond for $100 million plus is simply not true. I ask that you wait for the process of the 2 separate feasibility studies that are currently actively taking place to get done, that comes back to the board, that comes back to the community, to have community conversation explaining best routes forward. That's all I'm trying to say. You're putting the cart before the horse because the feasibilities aren't done to lay out the options. So to try to make somebody fearful thinking, oh, we're about to put ourselves $100 million in debt by taking out a bond, it's not fair. And to sit there and say, oh, we got to get our ducks in a row, as Ms. Vanderveer just said, the audit of 2023 we just paid for, the audit should be coming in and get published now. We're in 2024, 2025 fiscal year, so to try to imply that we're just so behind in our audits is simply not true.
So it's not current.
So, currently, I'm going to say, like, legally we are current.
Are we current?
Yes.
Okay, well, congratulations. Well, I will say.
But trustee, but don't put things out there
Actually, my question was
as a
Frank.
statement.
Hold on, my question was Frank, so I can wrap this up.
Okay.
So, going back to the bond, just so I didn't make sure I didn't make this up. So,
What is the bond?
So, have we not been talking about that when we get current on our, so we're current now,
We-
so I didn't know that.
we are
Hold on,
looking at-
wait 1 second.
Okay, go ahead.
When we get current on our bonds, are we not working with, have we not been having conversations with some sort of bond organization or company about this project? Hold on.
Okay, go ahead.
I just want to make sure I'm asking these ones. These are people I've actually worked with, and we've had these conversations at the finance committee. Actually, Ms. Satcher. So we haven't had a finance committee meeting in a little while. Just it's a waste of time. But part of it, I just want to know, because that was our update, was when we have that is when we could even entertain this idea of financing the committee. So I just want to make sure, are we not entertaining it, or are we? Because if not now, we can't.
So when you think about the question that you're asking, trustee, the village of Maywood got up to date to the audit so that we could find out our bondability and what our bond rating actually is.
For what though?
Trustee. So the reality
why are you
is,
running your credit? You don't run your credit just to run it.
well, if you listen, I'm saying, here's the reality. What have we said to the community since this administration started? To fix every infrastructure issue in the village of Maywood is over $400 million. there's some bondability that you can take out to get some of that done. When we talk about the sinking police station and chambers that we're in right now, there's some bondability potential, right? When you think about the 3rd floor and 4th floor of the 200 building, that's the old Masonic Temple Theater upstairs. There's a possibility of bondability in that. When you think about if we do actually go forward with thinking about relocating the Village Hall and putting it back to where it originally was before the roof fell in, there's possibility of bondability in that. The reality is we have the financial understanding of what our infrastructure issues are. We do not have the feasibility done in regards to what our options are of what a Village Hall would be, of what a new sports complex would be, or anything like that. So in order to understand how much we can possibly take out on a bond is the status that we're at.
Okay, my last question. Okay, my last question.
Wait a minute. The question of what the bond would be spent on, we have several different feasibility studies that have to be done before that's even a conversation. The question at hand is, now that all the audits are done, what is our bond rating, and potentially, if we wanted to, how much could we take out? And that's where the conversation would start of, would we take out as much as we could? Would we take out a certain amount, and what specifically would it be used for? But we are nowhere near that conversation right now.
Okay, my last question about this bond item. So are there any outside of bonds, what would be some other financing options for this project?
The Sports Facilities of America are putting together that feasibility, that they have put together different projects throughout the country where it's public-private partnership, where they have projects where they do land agreements and public facilities build them. There's options where you could do retail on top of having a sports complex. There are projects that they have talked about or highlighted, or you can look at throughout the state of Illinois, that they put specialty care and athletic care of like, what is it, when somebody's getting fit, like physical therapy, that get paid for it through different companies. But these are different projects across the state of Illinois that you can see different ways that they funded it. And then there's different projects that you can look at across the nation that they funded it. But ultimately, if you allow them the opportunity that we just started, not even 30 days ago, to finish the feasibility study, that's what will be presented as a conversation to be had. But there are multiple different ways that they have talked about, and then there's also multiple different ways that we even looked at before even working with them of ways that can be funded. When you look in, if you look in Lombard, theirs was funded by the school district. When you look at Wintrust Arena, not Wintrust Arena downtown, but Wintrust, Bedford Park, that was funded by Wintrust as a public-private partnership. So there's multiple different opportunities and ways to get it done. We just have to finish the feasibility and have a discussion in regards to best route to go forward. We even have some former celebrities within the village that are from the village of Maywood that are interested in what that feasibility study looks like, that they would be interested in funding some of the project. So again, cart before the horse. We have to get the feasibility study done to have that conversation of what our true options are. All right.
I have a question on item number B.
Item number B, trustee.
I don't know, Frank, if you want to have staff come up here to provide some additional context on why there is a need for the language to be changed. One of the questions I had on this particular item is in regards to leaving the engineer out of the equation in regards to this. I don't know if you want to speak on it, Frank, or have Angela speak on that.
Well, Angela's not here tonight. She's out. This is basically this is a matching grant that we already have a business improvement program that's $25,000 matching. We're doing it to $50,000 now.
No, my specific question on was in regards to the engineer not being at the table in regards to these proposed development projects. Was my specific question. So part of the language change, and I'm familiarized with this program because I created the program. And so my question is, in regards to the program, while we leaving out the engineer, while we taking out the engineer as far as evaluating the projects.
I don't believe we're taking out the engineer.
Well,
I don't even know if the engineer was even involved in any of those.
And trustee, if
So
you
I'm
think
trying to understand your question.
Yeah.
I apologize if I'm not.
just a point of clarity, trustee, the change is really just to say the program can be increased from 25 to 50,000. And the rationale behind it was thinking of the different businesses that are coming in. They're taking on buildings that have not been utilized for 20 and 30 years. So the community development department was looking at a tiered approach of what scale a business could ask for. So for instance, if you're saying that you're coming in as a business that needs new awnings or new windows, then fine. But if you're saying that you're bringing in a brand new luxury restaurant that needs a full kitchen build out in the village of Maywood or needs different things like that, then we would be able to take into consideration a larger project. When we had this initial conversation, community development was initially thought that we had increased it to the 50, but we hadn't. So in thinking about like the example of Exclusive Lounge right across the street. So Exclusive Lounge has purchased 2 Village of Maywood vacant lots that the village owned to build and advance on. But they've also purchased a private building that's the actual restaurant. In thinking about it the way that it's set up right now, they're only eligible for $25,000 to take on 3 pens that have sat dilapidated for nearly 25 years. The money increasing we would have been able to take in consideration $50,000 for the brand new parking lot and the brand new sewage that they have to do on blighted land that's been there for over 2 decades. On top of being able to help them with building out a facility that needed to be gutted and completely renovated, or on top of adding the outdoor entertainment space. So it's literally just giving us more of an opportunity for bigger projects to say we can provide more than $25,000. It's still our vote, it's still our conversation. There's nothing taking engineering out, there's nothing taking community development out. That person would still have to come and present to the board, talk to the board, and get the board approval. It's just giving us more wiggle room to help entice larger businesses as we're dealing with getting these properties back on the tax roll that have sat blighted for so long. It's literally us just saying we have the possibility of increasing more than $25,000 for larger projects. That's all it is.
Yeah, so I'm aware of that, and we most certainly gave staff direction to increase that amount up to $50,000.
So that's what we're trying to do.
I'm very
The
clear.
language wasn't there. We're trying to update the language because it wasn't there.
Okay, but I'm speaking of the additional language in which I am looking at right now on this computer screen, where it has in red lettering the village engineer being crossed out. And so when I'm asking questions, I'm expecting, Frank, you to be aware of the information in which I'm talking about. And this, what a red lettering is at, this is the context that's in here, and it's crossing out. And so I read this agenda at least 2 to 3 times to make sure that I have the full context of what's being communicated.
Sure.
And so in here, it's being crossed out. So the original language is in black. Mm-hmm. The language in red is which is being crossed out is what is being taken out of the program, or a piece is taken out of the program. So all I'm saying is, as a matter of fact, I'm going to ask that we table it for further conversations because I have a concern about the engineer being left.
Trustee, if I could just clarify, the engineer's taking out on the voting part of it because it might be a conflict of interest. It does not mean the engineer not going to be reviewing anything.
And that was my concern right there. So I just, with that additional information, now I know. But
yeah, I just had to look at it and review it. I apologize.
Okay, so no problem. I just.
Okay. All right. Going into no trustees reports, omnibus agenda items, A through L. I need a motion to approve.
Is the attorney?
I asked if there was anything for the attorney's report.
Wasn't it under? Was that under your report? As far as the attorney's jurisdiction as it relates to the changing of the government?
Yes,
The staff,
page
so
three.
Item B.
So I don't want us to be rushing through, we rushing through this agenda, and then we're here to do the work, and we're
Trustee
here to
Brandon, did you have a question?
dive into this research. And so, if you can just explain to the community, Jerusalem, the update or what you have done in regards to this.
Attorney Jerusalem.
The board at the last meeting requested that a binding referendum ordinance be prepared to be put on the agenda for approval. If it gets approved, 2 ballot questions will go on the agenda. The first will be, does the village retain the manager form of government? And then the second is, should the village adopt strong mayor form of government? That's the 2 ballot questions that would, if approved tonight, be put on the ballot in April for resident vote.
And thank you for that additional context. And so, and this is why I wanted us to, because we be rushing through these things and don't be providing any context or any additional information, most certainly to like the people to follow along with, what we're doing up here. And so, for me, I definitely will not be in support of this particular item for the very purpose of we haven't had any conversations with the community, with the public in regards to this, and we are creating what appears to be like a new norm where we just, put things on the agenda, especially like things of this magnitude. When you're talking about changing the form of government, I mean, that is a huge conversation that most certainly should have taken place on every corner of the village of Maywood prior to us, voting on it tonight, and then, moving it to the ballot for the citizens to vote on. And so none of that has taken place in regards to us involving and engaging the community, as part of the conversation, checking the pulse of the community. None of that has taken place. But it's becoming a new norm in the village of Maywood for us to conduct business like that without, checking the pulse or engaging the residents. And so it is for that reason why I will not be in support of this, because we haven't did our due diligence as elected officials. We just throw things out there and, without doing any, research involving the people or anything. So we work for the people. The village manager and staff work, for the community as well. But most certainly we haven't did enough around this topic to get the community's input or suggestions. So I wanted the community to know where I stand on it, and so when it's time to vote, will be know.
So thank you for that, Trustee. I think the reality is the conversation has been being had for quite some time, even before I became mayor, about the changing form of government. For the first 100 years of the village of Maywood, there was a strong mayor form of government that was changed in 1981. When you think about from 1981 to today, we've had, 6 or 7 mayors and over 25 different village managers. So the conversation has been ongoing well before either one of us even got elected. The reality is the conversation with residents and commentary from residents for quite some time, at least from my standpoint, has been asking this question. And I think putting it on the ballot from the election that's 80 days away from now provides us more than enough opportunity to have community conversations about it and community dialogue about it for those that aren't already in their mind how they would like for it to be. So I think this is to ask a specific question to the residents to lay a 40-year-old conversation to bed. Either it's voted up or it's voted down, but I think there is not a week that I go by that this question does not come up.
Well,
so to say there hasn't been enough due diligence,
no.
The question in itself for the residents to vote on is the due diligence, because it will be the residents' voice that says what type of government they would like to be. So that's not for us to dictate, that is to ask the question, which is why we would need to vote to ask the question.
If I could just provide you with some historical context. This item was on the agenda twice before, was on the ballot twice before, and was most certainly was defeated by the people of Maywood. They didn't want it at all. And so, again, I do not believe that we're doing our due diligence. If this was on the ballot before, and the residents voted it down, And, we haven't gone back to the public to even see what the interest is. We're talking about, water cooler conversations that have happened, but, we have not had any forums or any type of conversation, and now we're putting this major item on the ballot without any real conversation. I think that's a disservice to the residents to do that without involving them first, getting their input, and then moving in that direction. But
Thank you, Trustee Jones.
I don't know if my question's for the attorney, or maybe my question's for the attorney. So when individuals submitted their petitions for this election for the mayor, they were under the impression that they were running for a part-time village president role. And so now, after those petitions are submitted, we actually know who's going to be on the ballot. Now we've decided that it's appropriate to ask that question. In terms of transparency, I'm wondering, how is that transparent? Yes, the residents do get to ask, but if you're a resident and you wanted to chime in, and let's say you wanted to participate, you would be boxed out of this. There's only 3 people that get to participate in this situation. If you were a resident, maybe you weren't interested in being a part-time mayor, or maybe you would have been interested in being a full-time mayor. You didn't have an opportunity as a resident to do that. Or there might be individuals that ran for mayor under the impression that they were going to be a part-time mayor, and now those implications would change. Attorney Druzik, I guess my questions are, in terms of this role being a full-time role, is that now going to be mandated? I guess just so the candidates know. The other thing is, are there any conflict of interest in this situation? We have individuals that are participating in that race now, they're going to vote on it. Is there any reason why the public might deem this to be, I believe, to be somewhat self-serving? Because, I know you said you've had conversations. I've had conversations about it too. And actually, when I brought it up to the attorney, I thought we should have had this conversation when we increased the salary. Because I thought the salary more aligned with a full-time role. So now it seems like we probably are going to be underpaying a full-time mayor because now they're going to be full-time. Somebody might have to quit their job in order to fulfill the role. So I guess my question for the attorney is that now the implication that the role will now be full-time? And then does it have to be binding? I heard you say we gave direction to do binding. I don't remember that specific direction. I know, does it have to be binding? And what would be the implications if it's binding or bonding or not bonding? And the reason why I'm asking is that if we get the temperature, and if let's say the community is even interested in moving forward, now we can actually learn about it. The community, since it hasn't been a full-time mayor in 40 years, then they don't really know what that means. I actually think, I wouldn't be shocked if the community thinks that we have a full-time mayor now. I mean, we actually do, because you even say you're working 300 hours a month on average. So, I guess I'm just saying, I don't know if the community even knows what we have currently. I think there's an education piece. So there could be an opportunity. Are you even interested in having this conversation? Put it on the ballot. And then once you're learning, then we can learn. Because there's more than 2 forms of government. Why are we only entertaining the strong mayor form of government? Right next door, they have a commissioner style. There's other styles. So I guess I'm kind of curious, how did we arrive here? Because quite frankly, the residents don't really know the difference. A lot of our board members don't really know the difference between.
The residents work right.
Well, I'm going off the same water cooler conversations you have. I'm only saying that because residents actually believe right now we have a strong mayor. Like, do you know that? Like, some people don't know we have a village manager. Some people think that you're a full-time manager now because you put out in public that you're working 300 hours a week. So this is confusing to some people. So I'm just trying to ask the attorney, just to clarify my question. Is this going to automatically transition the role from part-time to full-time? And then the second question is, does this have to be binding referendum? Could it be non-binding? And how do we arrive at just the strong mayor form of government in terms of transitioning? Are there other options that we could be viewing for our town?
Attorney Joseph, do you want to take a?
Just briefly, these referendum questions are drafted as binding. If it's going to be an advisory referendum, they'd be drafted as a resolution, and can be phrased differently. So these are two binding ballot questions. Number one, what you read into it, the raise, what you read into, being a strong mayor, full-time, part-time, that comes with whoever gets the job if these ballots, initiatives pass. So there's a lot of speculation here as to, whether one or both of these passes. So I don't think you can.
Could they both pass? I don't interrupt, but what if they both pass?
If they both pass?
Or what if we say we want to, in theory, go to the mayor form of government and not resolve? How does that work?
How does that work? Yeah, I mean, if both pass, you have a strong mayor, you no longer have an Article 5 village manager form of government. If the strong mayor doesn't pass, but the village manager form of government passes, then you have you end up repealing the Article 5 manager form. You don't pass the strong mayor, which you end up going back to still have a mayor council form of government, but it'll be operated under 3.1 of the municipal code, which is essentially a village manager. A village manager, not Article 5, with Article 5 powers, it would be a village manager / like an administrator position. It would actually, go to, you'd still have a mayor and a council, but your manager wouldn't have certain appointment powers. Their role would be reduced in terms of their day-to-day operations and their ability to appoint people. So, again, this is all speculative. Number one, there is nothing in here that talks about a full-time or a part-time, mayor. But you can have a part-time mayor making $65,000 a year. You can have a full-time mayor making $65,000 a year. It just depends on whoever.
Can you have a strong mayor working part-time? I guess I'm just trying to understand what those require. Like, what's our expectation now? Like, could you be a strong mayor and only do 10 hours a week, and that's fine? Is it at your discretion? Is it at that role?
Well, it's set up to really have a very robust role in, the day-to-day operations and to be, kind of the point person for the board and the community. And they usually have a chief of staff or an administrator as an assistant. So typically it is a full-time, but again, that needs to be, at least.
I don't. I don't.
Well, there's that. It's not advisory. It's mandatory, right? If it passes.
It has to be that way, or is that just how you decided to write it up? Like,
No, you have one or two choices. I mean, the reality is if it's an advisory, it's just really a citizen survey, and so it's not going to have any impact. The direction I got was to prepare, this ordinance for this board meeting to have these initiatives. That was my understanding what came out of the last board meeting, so it's on the agenda. The other thing I think it's important to make sure everybody saw in my memo, per the election code, and also the State Officials and Employees Ethics Act. Officials and employees of the village cannot take any action to suggest support for or against a referendum question once this thing's adopted. So, as elected officials and as employees, you're not supposed to go out and advocate one way or another for a referendum. It's supposed to be a question for the community to decide for itself. It's a violation of the election code to do that. It's a violation of the election code and the State Officials and Ethics Act to use public funds to promote or argue against a referendum. So you have to, be cautious there. What the community can do is provide objective information and make that available to the public when we have referendums. You can't pick and choose and you can't take a side, even though this board may want to put the initiative on the ballot. Once you do that, your role is to let that initiative filter through and percolate in the community and let the grassroots, groups and communities discuss it and then show up, on election day to decide whether the initiative is something they either support or they do not support. But yeah, if this gets approved tonight, the board cannot be advocating one way or another. It cannot be producing materials, using village funds to advocate one way or another for the referendum initiatives.
You can use political funds, right, to advocate one way or the other?
No, you're not supposed to. It's, like I said, read the memo. It's clearly set forth in the memo at page 3 of my memo, 287 of the packet. Residents and businesses may organize campaigns and spend their own private funds urging votes for and against a referendum, but there's certain limitations on that as well, and I put that in my memo. So, yeah, again, there's criminal fines for violating the election code, the state gets banned act for advocating for and against referendums, so as an elected official or as a village employee, so just be mindful of that.
A last question for you. Since the board can't do it, can Kleinthorpe and Jenkins host some sort of public seminar actually breaking this down? Like just a factual, you can't do that either.
You can provide factual information on the website, a factual FAQ, but again, that would have to be vetted by my attorneys, the election attorneys in my office, if you want to put an FAQ sheet out. But again, it has to be generic, factual information. It can't be skewed to push your constituents to vote.
No, that's the can Kleinthorpe and Jenkins do that?
We would not do that. We would not get out in front of the community and host information sessions on referendum. This is for.
So the community should, okay, so ultimately the community needs to do their own homework on this. Like once we vote on this, community needs to do their own homework and Google, like the board and Maywood are not gonna be giving you information about this. After this, we're not gonna be promoting or whatever, and neither are the legal teams.
We can put a factual FAQ together and post it on your website, and that can be made available to the public. But again, going around and hosting informational meetings on that, I do not recommend my firm get involved in that because again, you want to stay out of the business of politics. This is a question for the community to decide. If the village board feels like this is a question that the community should answer, then once it gets teed up to be put on the ballot, it's a question for the community to again vet and decide where they want to go with it.
Me.
Trustee Brandon.
Yeah, the most ideal situation for this, it should have been led from the very beginning by the citizens. If they wanted to change their form of government, just like, the whole park district debacle, it should be led by the residents or people of Maywood, not us. And so for us to even be involved in something like this, I just think that it is just not, just doing right by the citizens of Maywood. And there's so many different ways. As you were talking, Jerusalem, I was thinking about, what had transpired with the whole park district situation, and folks were getting paid, and young people being out there, and village employees involved, and all of these other different things, and who had the petitions, and well, the clerk's office was supposed to have a petition, then the clerk's office did not have a petition. The mayor said they gave him the petition, and it was just all so cloudy. So there are a lot of ways to work around what you just said, and to be honest, this whole concept should have been led by there was some residents or a community group that was interested in changing the form of government. That's how it should have been. But this is, I think, the third time. Whether it was the salary increase, whether it was the whole the park district question that went on the ballot, to this item right here. That we continue to again create this new norm in the village of Maywood of how business should be conducted, and it's wrong.
All right. No trustee committee reports. I'm looking at omnibus agenda for items A through L. I need a motion.
And the ballot question is separate under new business, so it's not part of the omnibus.
Trustee Sanchez, can you please
So moved.
motion by trustee Williams, I need a second.
I'll second.
Second by trustee Lightford. Please read the omnibus agenda.
Letter A, motion to approve the monthly financial report in the amount of $639,015.92. Letter B, motion to approve the warrant list number 200557 dated December 31st, 2024 in the amount of $1,780,327.37. Letter C, motion to approve updated version of Maywood Matching Grant Business Improvement Program guidelines and application. Letter D, an ordinance authorizing the creation and issuance of a Class N bar and grill liquor license to Yours Cafe and Bistro Limited Liability Company doing business as Yours Cafe and Bistro at 1115 Madison Street, regular hours of operation. E, an ordinance amending the Maywood zoning ordinance regulations relative to transit-oriented developments within various zoning districts of the village of Maywood and related updates to generic, permitted, and special land use definitions and regulations, bulk and yard regulations, permitted encroachments, architectural design standards, and parking and mobility regulations. F, a resolution approving the content of and or release of certain closed meeting minutes of the combined committee of the whole / special village board meetings of the president and board of trustees of the village of Maywood 2024 full year review. G, a resolution acknowledging acceptance, obligation, appropriation, and approval of village expenditures of American Rescue Plan Act state and local fiscal recovery funds on ARPA designated categories of eligible ARPA expenditures during fiscal year 2024 with copies of lists of village approved projects, vendor contracts, and other agreements and related expenditures of the American Rescue Plan Act state and local fiscal recovery funds within categories of eligible ARPA expenditures attached as Group Exhibit 1 to the resolution. H, motion to approve the payment of a service invoice dated January 2, 2025 and issued by Standard Equipment Company of Chicago, Illinois in the amount of $6,000.18 for repair work to 2100 Vector truck and authorize and approve the expenditure of general corporate funds to pay for the work. Letter I, motion to approve the payment of invoice 11446 dated December 29, 2024 and issued by Geno's Heating and Plumbing Incorporated of Broadview, Illinois in the amount of $8,016.90 for sidewalk repair work at 1009 South 17th Avenue and 1027 South 17th Avenue and authorize and approve the expenditure of general corporate funds or sewer/water funds to pay for the work. Letter J, motion to approve the payment of an invoice dated December 26, 2024 and issued by Exclusive Plumbing of Maywood, Illinois in the amount of $6,500 for street excavation work and emergency sewer main repair work at 2010 St. Charles Road and authorize and approve the expenditure of general corporate funds or sewer and water funds to pay for the work. Letter K, motion to waive competitive bidding and authorize and approve the payment of invoice number 11444 dated December 29, 2024 and issued by Geno's Heating and Plumbing Incorporated of Broadview, Illinois in the amount of $24,125.68 for emergency main repair work at 1032 South 10th Avenue and authorize and approve the expenditure of general corporate funds or sewer/water funds to pay for the work. Letter L, motion to waive competitive bidding and authorize and approve the payment of invoice number 11442 dated December 29, 2024 and issued by Geno's Heating and Plumbing Incorporated of Broadview, Illinois in the amount of $10,597.70 for routing and televising of sewer main and emergency sewer main repair work at the intersection of 14th Avenue and Adams Street and authorize and approve the expenditure of general corporate funds or sewer/water funds to pay for the work.
Please call the roll.
Trustee Williams?
Aye.
Trustee Sanchez? Trustee Jones?
Aye.
Trustee Lightfoot? Trustee Peppers?
Aye.
Trustee Brandon?
Aye.
Mayor Booker?
Aye.
Motion carried.
We need a motion to approve an ordinance providing for the submission of the referendum questions of whether the village manager shall retain the managerial form of government and whether the village manager shall adopt the strong mayor form of government.
I would like to make a motion to table this item for further discussion and, to be honest, to look at the language or the direction that was given by this board to the village attorney, because I do not recall us saying to move forward in this manner.
Motion by trustee Brandon, second by trustee Peppers. Please call the roll.
Trustee Williams?
No.
Trustee Sanchez?
No.
Trustee Jones?
Aye.
Trustee Lightfoot?
No.
Trustee Peppers?
Aye.
Trustee Brandon?
Aye.
Mayor Booker?
No.
Motion carried.
No, it didn't carry.
I didn't carry, sorry.
It was 4-3. Okay, so I need a motion to approve the ordinance providing for the submission of referendum questions of whether the village of Maywood shall retain the managerial form of government and whether the village of Maywood shall adopt the strong mayor form of government. Motion by trustee Sanchez. I need a second. Second by trustee.
Who's that motion by again?
Sanchez.
So that was trustee Sanchez that made the motion. Okay.
Motion by second by trustee Lightfoot. Please call the roll.
Well, Mayor, I have a question. Can we, I think the attorney answered it, but I don't remember. Could both of those questions pass in the affirmative? And what would happen again? So the first question was what again? I'm sorry, the first question is, do we want to retain our village manager form of government? Right?
Yes.
Let's say yes. Let's say that's yes. And then, do we want to adopt a mayoral form of government? Yes.
Yes.
What happens again? I think I didn't comprehend that. What happens then?
Yes. Yes, you could add the retention of the Article 5 manager form of government and the retention, and then you adopt a strong mayor. And then we need to.
There's no other option for people to vote.
Yeah.
Wait, I don't, wait, so we have two forms of government?
No.
I guess I'm saying, so if you vote for affirmative for whatever and it's binding, then what form of government do we have?
If it's a yes and a yes, then it's a strong mayor form of government.
Yep.
That's confusing. But how's that transparent? So if I vote yes and yes, then how are we voting to then change it? That's not clear.
This is the questions that are set forth in the state law, and this is the way they have to be presented.
So, so if, I guess just so the residents are clear, so you don't want to vote yes, or, I guess, I don't know, that's confusing. That doesn't actually
You can't tell them how to vote.
or not, I guess, so people understand what they're voting for, or are answering.
Yes.
Okay, all right, well,
Please call the roll.
that's strange.
Mayor,
Trustee Williams, I'm sorry.
well, I kind of want some clarification on it as well. So if they vote, so I'm guessing you were saying the residents will have to read both the referendum questions before they decide on either one, or they can vote yes, go down to the next question and say, oh, wait, I need to change my vote. That's usually how are we saying that's how that goes?
Yeah, they gotta pick and choose between their options to get to the ultimate destination that they want to get to.
Right, so,
If they want to keep a manager form of government, they gotta say no to the second question.
Is there any way to clarify that, so people know if you vote no, yes, that means?
That's the legal.
well, there's no
These
legal,
are the questions that the state law requires you to ask to get to where.
I guess, so people understand what the results mean.
So we can't legally change any of the language. We cannot add additional language to it. It's the state.
so is this the language this is the language that's provided by state law? So
Yes.
this is the state statute, that's the language that has to be on the.
We can't change.
So I guess I'll finish my statement. This was brought to the board last month And the board overwhelmingly voted to have the attorney to draft these questions to put before the residents.
Not binding.
Yes, the attorney specifically asked us binding, and we voted to have a binding resolution to be put on the board, on the packet. Okay, but we come to the residents and act like these conversations haven't been had on the streets. These conversations haven't been had by this board. We started these conversations in January of 2024 when we talked about, when we were looking to bring in a new village manager. We sat here on this dais and you guys went back and forth about it as, why are we bringing this village manager form of government when that's not even a thing when we're trying to hire a village manager? We've talked about this at length for a year now. And now it's before the residents and this board, everybody, because it's election season, we want to get up and I don't know what we're doing here. We brought this to the board, we brought this to the attorney last month, asked him to put this on the agenda, asked him to draft something for us to vote on at the agenda, and now it's here. We can't continue to act like this is something that we don't know about, or something that we didn't ask to do, or something that we haven't been talking about for a year now. We have to move up.
Not concretely.
It doesn't matter if it's concretely or whatever. We've talked about it. Mayor, can we call the roll?
I have a question before you call the roll.
Trustee Brandon.
Again, if it's not on the agenda, sidebar conversations, it don't matter. It got to be black and white.
Mayor, can we call the roll, please?
My question for the attorney: what are the if somebody is found to be out promoting or to be utilizing funds in any way to promote? Either way, what's the? Can you explain to the community of what the repercussions will be from a legal perspective to the community for ethics violation?
I just did page
Okay,
3.
so
Three of my memo
I'm asking you to
packet.
explain again.
But I already did. I said there was criminal sanctions under the election code and under the ethics tax. So, page 3, I think it's also page 267 in the agenda packet. You can find that if you have questions. You can ask.
And for the record, that's for or against?
For or against, you can't advocate one way or another.
Mayor, can we please call the roll on the motion?
Please call the roll.
Trustee Williams?
Aye.
Trustee Sanchez?
Aye.
Trustee Jones?
No.
Trustee Lightfoot? Trustee Peppers?
No.
Trustee Brandon?
No.
Mayor Booker?
Aye.
Motion carried.
What was Sanchez vote?
No.
He called
No.
the motion. It wasn't a no. He
Okay,
called the
I was just
motion.
making sure. This vote.
Can we get a motion to adjourn?
What do I, is it, comments, trustee?
No, you have a comment, trustee?
Yeah, I'm looking to get, board consensus to bring it to the, next board meeting. There was resources, that we received back in 2020 to improve or purchase basketball rims at Connor Heights Park. Those resources are earmarked for that. We received them from, Doc Rivers and, Griffles. That money was earmarked for that. I'd like to ask the board so we can make a vote on it in February. But ultimately, if the board finds that they don't want to use the money for that purpose, that's fine. But we have to give it back.
So, trustee, just for point of clarity, in fact, the February 4th board meeting, there will be actual proposal for 10th Park as a whole, not just basketball rims. So the basketball rims and Doc Rivers Court will be also a part of it, but it's to actually not just do the court, but it's also to do the park. So it's already a part of it.
Football field and all that stuff.
You'll see a presentation on February 4th for the park.
Okay, so
and it will include your rims, and it will include the Doc Rivers Court.
Okay, so no one has a problem with that because it's going to be already included in this capital project for what budget year? Next budget year?
It'll be to come be done during the season. So this coming summer, the work will be done. So all of the court.
So it'll be for next budget season.
May 1st.
Next budget season.
Well, the season hasn't changed before the work can be done.
Well, okay, all right. So it'll be on the agenda for
February 4th.
Are we good with that, Mike?
that everybody would like to see that on the next agenda?
Yes.
It's going to be on the agenda. There you go.
All right, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion to adjourn by trustee Williams, second by trustee Sanchez. Please call the roll.
Trustee Williams.
Aye.
Trustee Sanchez. Trustee Jones.
Aye.